Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Colette and today I am sharing my favorite witchcraft oil blends for use in spells and for anointing, and I'm going to talk about what they are, what's in them, and how to use them and make them. Let's define oils and what I mean by that. All my oils are created in an oil base that acts as a stabilizer, a carrier, a fixative for the magic and the fragrances and powers of the plants. In that base oil, I will infuse plant material, and I'll talk more about how to do that in a little bit. And then I will add essential oils, which are oils that are made from just the fragrances of the plant itself, not chemicals. You can use chemical scents if you want. I personally just like true essential oils made from the plants better, and then they help to enhance the fragrance, make it smell nice. It helps the power of the herbs and the power of the oil waft and move through the space, and it also activates the part of our brain, the back part of our brain that reacts to scent and is our non-thinking brain that we use for magic. You can use just a plain base oil if you choose and add several drops of several different essential oils, and I'm going to give you a few examples of those kind of oils. However, it does take a fair amount of experience and experimenting to make sure that essential oils, if you're using several of them, play nicely together and smell good and work out magically. There are a lot of different base oils that you can use. I really like olive oil because it has a long history of use. It's relatively unrefined. It has a lot of magical and healing and protective properties. But some people prefer a lighter, thinner oil that spreads more easily, like almond or avocado, or some people prefer jojoba for its properties on the skin, but I find jojoba a little bit thicker and harder to work with. Okay, let's get to that idea of what is an infused oil. So an infused oil is when you take a base oil, carrier oil like that olive oil or whatever you use, put plant material in it and let it soak in a warm, dark place for 10 to 14 days. Some people do less time, some people do more. Over time, I feel like you'll get a sense of when it's done. Make sure the plant is covered by at least an inch of oil, and use a jar size that's relative to the amount of oil and herbs that you're going to use so there's less oxidation. If you have plant material poking up out of the oil, it will mold. And then at the end of that time, strain it out. I have a very detailed post on my Patreon page that you can read and take notes on that talks about different ways to make an infused oil, and you can look that up. It's set up to be public so anyone can see it. I'll put the link in the description. And I just want to add that I often do some kind of little bonus thing like this for my Patreon subscribers. And so if you feel like signing up, you like that kind of info, go ahead and do it. All right, so here's how people use oils, and you could get even more creative with them if you want. People dot them around their house to waft some of the properties of that through their home. They tend to anoint themselves when doing magic, anoint candles, they anoint the spell plate, they put them on objects to infuse them with the magic of that oil, and there's about 1 million different ways to use that. And my favorite is really anointing myself with them, because then I feel like I carry that magic and I can run my intention through that oil that's on my body. I anoint myself and my throat with Clarity Blend when I am speaking in front of a large group, leading magic or doing any priestess work, or having trouble focusing. I just rub it on my hands, smell it, and then go about my work. And I use rosemary for protection and mental stimulation. I use mint essential oil for engaging my thinking brain while still staying magically connected to a little bit of psychic info, because mint holds both properties. And then I use clary sage for clear thinking, clear vision, clear thoughts. You can also substitute garden sage as well. And I would say that both the mint and the clary sage are essential oils, and I'll talk about the proportions next. Okay, here's the proportions. To 4 ounces of finished strained rosemary infused base oil, I like to add 1 to 3 drops of each of those essential oils. Again, they are clary sage and mint, and you add 1 to 3 drops each. This one is all infused oils, and what I do is I take a half a cup of that base oil, olive oil, or whatever you're using, and to that half cup I add a spoonful each of frankincense, myrrh, and in the past I would have used sandalwood as the third herb. I don't use sandalwood anymore because it's so difficult to find. So instead of sandalwood, I like to add a little pine resin that I just harvest myself to engage with a local tree, and also to add a little bit of protection into the blend. Alternatively, you could add just essential oils of this myrrh, frankincense, and pine if you choose. However, they're super, super expensive and probably not something that you want to invest in. But if you do, go for it. Those all play very nicely together. Myrrh and frankincense blend well. I would say that if you are adding pine into it as an essential oil, you really probably only want to add like 1 drop and then smell it, because pine scent as an essential oil can very easily overwhelm frankincense and myrrh. I've talked about this before. This is my fiery protection oil, and it is my strongest protection oil. What I do is I take a base oil, and then I use fresh flowers of St. John's wort, infuse them in a warm, dark place for a couple weeks, and then strain it out, and to each 4 ounces I add 1 to 3 drops of essential oil of cinnamon. I have so many uses for this oil. When I'm teaching classes in the spaces that I rent, there's often a lot of different kind of energy that's been in the building. So we clear the room, and then I will take just a pinky tip of my finger of that oil and put it to either side of the doorway, just to provide a little protection from whatever is wafting through the building. I also dot it on my wrists for protection when I'm doing magic or when I'm in public. My opening the intuition oil is made entirely from infused oils without any essential oils. So it's a great one for people who are sensitive to scents that you're going to be around, or maybe you're someone who is sensitive to scents. So the way I make it is to place a spoonful each of the following herbs in the bottom of a jar. Mugwort for opening the intuition. Rosemary for a clear mind and a little protection when you're open, and blue vervain to protect and support the psychic pathways that you're using when you're opening your intuition. Then just cover all those herbs with enough oil to make sure they're well covered, with a little bit over the top. Check the handout or the article that I'm posting on Patreon. And then just go ahead and make a regular infused oil, letting it soak in a warm, dark place for a couple weeks. I use this oil to amplify any magical working spell, ceremony, ritual that I am doing. It helps me stay centered, focused, in my authority, and allows me to be connected to right action, right time, so that I do what I need to do when I need to do it. Here's the ingredients. You take a half a bay leaf or so. If you really like the scent of bay, you might go with a whole leaf if it's a small one. And bay is to bring success and a little bit of oracular or divination energy into your workings so you can listen to what needs to happen and when. And then also add 2 teaspoons of dragon's blood powder. Put both these ingredients in the bottom of a jar. Dragon's blood powder is very protective, very shielding, and it really enhances the power. It has a very nice fragrance as well. And so again, just put these in the bottom of a jar, cover them with oil, infuse them. And I do want to say about dragon's blood that it comes from a lot of areas that are either at war or are being overexploited or over harvested, like the Amazon rainforest. However, there are people that work with indigenous groups to make sure that things are sustainably harvested with the dragon's blood. So do some research online and check into that. So again, you're going to then infuse these herbs in your base oil of olive oil or whatever you're using. Let it sit in that warm, dark place for 10 days to 2 weeks, and then strain it out. And my final oil blend was a very popular one, and it's just kind of for fun. It was called Summer Night Oil Blend, and it's used to call in love magic, sex magic, glamour magic, or when you just want to personally evoke for yourself that power of a nice, warm, balmy summer night with blooming flowers and everything. It feels just right and really magical. As I said, this was a really popular oil blend when I sold it. So take a base oil, this one is all essential oils, and add to 8 ounces, add 1 to 3 drops of lavender essential oil, 1 to 5 drops of ylang ylang essential oil, and then 1 drop only of cinnamon, just to get things really moving, get a little more fiery energy in this blend. And when I originally made this blend, for many years, I used 1 drop of clove. I found that a little more effective than the essential oil of cinnamon. Clove works a little faster, it's a little more fiery, but a lot of people were really sensitive to it on their skin, especially if you're doing a massage with it or something like that. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please tell me in the comments which oil you are most curious to try or which one you like the most. And I want to remind you that the link to the article on my Patreon page, which is free to the public, will be in the description. And that link, that article, is all about how to make an herbal infused oil in a different bunch of ways. And there will also be in the description a link to sign up to my newsletter, which gives seasonal magic, tips, and general witchcraft. Until next time, stay safe and be well.